For us as government, for us as a people, the idea was all of our 5 previous presidents prior to him were given a state funeral, were buried at Embassy Park. If we all recall, President Kaunda's burial was a big issue because the family wanted him to be buried elsewhere. But at the end of the day, government at that material time, which happened to be led by our now late 6th president, prevailed. And President Kaunda was buried at Heroes Acre. There were a lot of, in the intervening period, after the initial conversations, there were a lot of allegations that were made. They're in the public domain.
Yeah.
We have, for example, PF, then faction Secretary General Raphael Nakachinda, alleging that there was poisoning that had taken place, alleging that the government had a hand in the death of our former president, and asking that a postmortem be done so that the family could be satisfied at that time. And those conversations took place. Ultimately, we are where we are, where people had to go to court, the state on the one part, the family on the other. Being sensitive to the whole situation, my personal view is that all of us could have toned down a little bit more and stepped away from our positions. The government on the one hand, the family on the other hand, and spoken from the perspective of us being Zambians and us having a situation where we have a disease that needs to be put to rest. Now we are 1 year later, and these are the conversations that we're still having. I think we all need to just put our minds into what we are dealing with, the death of a human being, regardless of who he was, and the fact that he needs to be put to rest.
Yeah. There is obviously whatever's in the public domain, and I don't know if this has been addressed or not, but I hear one of the issues that the family had requested was for the current president to not preside over the funeral.
What is presiding over the funeral?
Attending.
But then if you are giving somebody the highest honor, who is the highest authority in a country?
No, agreed.
The president.
Yeah. All I'm saying is there is a stalemate, right? If the only condition is that we would not want the president there regardless of what protocol says, and we would love for the burial to take place in Zambia, despite obviously what protocol is, how do you think the proper way to handle this if you were the president?
You're going to get me fired. I think, to be honest, as I said earlier, we all needed to have de-escalated then. We all need to continue de-escalating now, and not go into rhetoric on social media that inflates the situation.
And there's a lot of it, hey?
And there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
I know certainly, let me not speculate, I know certainly that the president is very willing to scale down on what the expectations are on the one hand, and have this matter resolved in a way that is mutually satisfactory. I know that may not be the best selection of words, but at the end of the day, everybody has to be able to say we are comfortable, maybe not happy, but comfortable with the outcome that we've achieved. What is the outcome that we need to achieve? We need to be able to send off our 6th Republican president in a dignified manner in our own country. Almost everybody agrees with that now where we sit. How do we achieve that? Many different options. Move away from litigation, settle this matter, and let the late president rest. In our African culture, we do not accept there being an open tomb for a prolonged period, for example. Let him get to rest. If the family is willing to say, let him rest in Zambia at Heroes Acre, and we want it private, I'm sure, without question, that we would be able to consider it as a people and advise those that are key stakeholders around that to achieve it.
In your opinion, I do not know if you did admit to what I had said, that I heard that they wanted the president to not be there. Is there anything else that they have said that they wanted or didn't want that they might have communicated to the government?
Yes, over the last year, almost now, there's been different positions that the family has taken, that perhaps you could say to a certain degree the government has taken.
Yeah.
Although we have been rather consistent that the key headline message is that this is our sixth president. Why should he be treated different from the other five? Yes. So back and forth in any form of negotiation, you're going to have back and forth. You say X, I say Y.
Yeah.
You reconsider, the family reconsiders, then we say Z and we say A. I think the critical issue is, can we agree that the late president is a national asset and cannot be treated in the same way as you and I? If we agree that, probably we'll get 3/4 of the way towards achieving an outcome that everybody is happy with.
But isn't that already proven? So yes, he needs to, we both parties would agree that he needs a dignified burial. So I don't think that's in question. What would be in question, just like I've said, I don't know if you've answered me, is
like a diplomat I have.
Yeah. What have they said they want or they don't want?
That master's degree is working, eh?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
in order for them to bring the former
At
president
some
back.
point, one of the key issues, yes, you've quite rightly stated, was the presence of the current head of state at the funeral. But that was at some point, that was also discussed and agreed and said, you cannot exclude him. So does he receive the remains, or does he come to Mulungushi only?
Yeah.
And on the last day, small little issues. I'm sorry, that's not the correct expression. Issues that would not ordinarily be very complicated to address. That gap needs to be closed. They are important issues, and I think where we are now, from what I know, most of these have been looked at, and everyone has taken a step back and understood your viewpoints, my viewpoints, and the other viewpoints that
Did I
have been
miss
put forward.
the other list apart from the one that we spoke about? Did he say anything else as to the reason?
Putting words in my mouth. But yeah, ultimately, I think the headline message, I repeat, is let's get our former president buried in Zambia in a dignified manner. Because even the host country is talking about this. We have citizens in the host country
That are talking about this.
Yes.
And whether it's true or not, allegedly, but in the last couple of days, headlines said that the Zambian government had taken custody of the remains of the former president.
Postmortems.
And then a day later, the same court sort of demands that the government hands the body back to the family. Did that really happen, or
So
is it my algorithm messing with me?
it's not your algorithm. There is a series of legal activities that took place. One, the appeal lapsed. First of all, we have to all of us accept and understand that the initial action was taken by the government of the Republic of Zambia, requesting for the burial of our asset as a people, because that is ultimately not asset in the sense of I own you, but asset in the sense of our culture, in the sense of him having been Republican president, in the sense of him having moved our country for 7 years in a particular direction. We must respect that, whatever the case may be. Whether we agree or disagree with how it was done is immaterial at this point. He is our asset in that regard.
Yeah.
So we said, let's have our former president buried in this country. We had a disagreement. We talked about it for a couple of months between the family and the government. And ultimately, since we're in a foreign country, an independent person had to determine how this thing would be achieved. And the court in South Africa, the High Court of competent jurisdiction, decided that you must bury the late president in the Republic of Zambia with full decorum. And the family was not happy with that decision, as is their right. They appealed. And this is where we now find ourselves. Now that every court process has got certain parameters that you must follow.
Yeah.
In X days, you do what, Y, in Z days, you do W. You saw it with the presidential petition in 2016, 2017. The petition lapsed because certain things were not done. So why should it be different in this particular case?
Right.
It won't be different. Even if we're in a different country, even if we're in a different jurisdiction, but the law is the law, by and large. And our colleagues failed to follow the agreed pathway to the appeal going to the Superior Court. At that point, the appeal lapsed. What does that mean? When the appeal lapsed, you go back to the default position, which is that the body must be repatriated.
Right.
Yes, handed to the government of the Republic of Zambia, repatriated to this particular country for the purpose of burial. Don't forget that in the interim, Raphael Nakachinda had made allegations of poisoning. There has been an inquest that has been taking place to determine whether or not the death of the president, the former president, was natural. In the South African courts, you can't go to a foreign country and do some of the things that we do in this country. You just yap. You decide and say, this happened, that happened, and that happened, without proof or evidence. Nakachinda put our president, former president, the family, and ourselves as a country in a very precarious position by alleging that there was poisoning, that the death was not a natural death. That put a stain on our colleagues in South Africa. Imagine, South African president, God forbid, dies, former president dies in Zambia, and someone in Zambia
alleges poisoning.
Some South African alleges poisoning in Zambia. What do the Zambian courts do? They have to ascertain whether or not it's a reality. And that is the process that has been ongoing for nearly 6-7 months, or perhaps more. The only way you could concretely determine this question was by completing the process, including a forensic examination of the body. So now, to answer your question more clearly, when the decision was made that the appeal had lapsed, there was no reason why the custody of the body of the late president would remain with Two Mountains Funeral Home. The South African government took the opportunity to take the body and complete the process of forensic examination. This is what AG was trying to say when he explained that the body was never in the custody of the government of the Republic of Zambia. So upon the body leaving Two Mountains, the family also took the opportunity, at least as far as I know, to seek further relief from the courts and ask for the body to be returned to them. But it was lawfully in the custody of the South African government for the purposes of completing that investigation.
All right.
And this is how you saw that postmortem being undertaken. By the way, the nature of these judicial processes, if you as a family, for example, I hate to use this example, had a hand in the death of your deceased, would you be asked whether or not you should release the body of the deceased? Won't that defeat the cause of justice? It would. So the process has to be independent of any interested party.